Hi, welcome to GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. Just want to do a quick comparison really with the two cameras I have here, which is the Panasonic Lumix GH3 and the Panasonic Lumix GH4. Now, I bought the GH4 to replace all of my full frame Nikon equipment, and you can see in my other videos why I did that. And I also had the Nikon D7000 with an 18-200 lens, a sort of a one-stop shop, which I sometimes use, but my partner mainly used. And she liked the GH4, the handling, the size, etc. So when I looked into it, I thought the GH3 seemed such a good bargain at the moment because it's been discounted quite heavily because it's been replaced by the GH4. But you can still buy it brand new. So I thought, well, looking at the specs, there's not a great deal of difference, and the differences between them possibly aren't differences that really she's going to worry about. And as a second camera, it will prove to be, I think, a fantastic addition. So we went ahead. I've sold the D7000 and bought the GH3. Now, there are some differences. Obviously, the major one is that the GH4 does 4K video, but the GH3 still does stunning full HD video. They both have a very similar, if not identical, bodies. They're both weather sealed. The button layout is the same. The lens mount is obviously the same. So both have Wi-Fi. Both have touch sensitive LCD screens. So I thought, well, for about, I think it's about £400 or £500 cheaper, I think that's a really good deal. So, you know, why not? And to be honest, I can't see too many downsides. The main thing that's missing, obviously, from is the 4K video, but also the slow motion feature is missing, which is nice to have. But again, I've got it in this if we need it, so not a problem for us. And I think this one shoots perhaps a little bit faster. The main difference really in actual use, which to be honest, I never even mentioned on the review of the GH4, was the viewfinder, because it's just not worth talking about. It just doesn't, it's not an issue anymore. Digital SLRs like the Nikons and Canons have the mirror box inside, and then they have a pentaprism on top, so that, you know, when you look through the viewfinder, you see what's coming through the lens. And the reason it has a mirror which flaps up and down and to then get out of the way of the shutter, and then a pentaprism on top, so it reverses the image so you can see it the right way up and all that. The reason it has that was because back in the day, that was the only way they sort of invented to do it. Whereas now there's different ways and better ways. And I'm pretty sure that if you'd had the two options originally, I think the electronic viewfinder probably would have won out. I know there's still people that love the natural look of the optical viewfinder, but there are some major benefits with a good quality EVF. Now, poor quality EVF, yeah, is a whole different ballgame. But we're at a stage now in camera technology where EVFs are all of, you know, pretty good quality, and these two particularly are very good. Now, and let's face it, it's one of the most important things. It's one of the reasons why I loved the D7000, just because it had 100% coverage viewfinder, really nice and bright. And then when I got the D610, even bigger, still 100% coverage, but a lovely big viewfinder, lovely and bright. Downsides with that type of viewfinder, if it's quite dark or dull, you can't see what you're shooting, whereas in these electronic viewfinders, it brightens the image up, so you can actually see what you're taking a photo of, which is great. People that say, oh, well, you know, that doesn't reflect your true image at the end of the day. Oh, well, okay, take the picture, look at the screen. If you don't like it, take another one. You know, you can change it. It's not, I think the benefits far outweigh any of the negatives. And on these two bodies, one of the places where they've improved the GH4 over the GH3 is in the viewfinder. Now, externally, you've got a much nicer, more comfortable eye cup, which is nice, but internally you get a much bigger view. Now, when you look through the GH3, which I'm going to do because it's easier to describe if you're doing it, it's lovely. There's no lag, you've got all the information you need, your focusing points. It's, you know, it's really nice. Nice size, it's not too big, you can see right into the corners, there's plenty of room in there to move the camera around a bit. It's a really nice viewfinder to use. When you go onto the GH4, it's just, to be honest, because it's bigger, it's more difficult to see into the corners because the image goes, sort of really fills your whole view. And it's, whilst this is a lovely, lovely image and there's no lag or anything like that, it's just beautiful. There's, again, there's benefits to both of them. This is a more compact, you see everything quite clearly in the middle, whereas that, you do tend to sort of look around the frame a little bit. So you could get caught out with something distracting in the edge of your frame that you don't see on this that you would see on this. However, I prefer the much bigger viewfinder. So swings and roundabouts, but they're both really good and they both work an absolute treat. But that's one of the main differences. Image quality, I think they've tweaked it slightly. The low light performance is ever so slightly better on this one, but to be honest, the low light performance on both of them is really good in my opinion. Quite happily shoot up to, you know, 3200, and in some circumstances, depending on your lighting and what you intend to do with the final picture, 6400 is acceptable on both of these. And I've shot beyond that to get certain effects, grainy looking sort of, especially when you're doing black and white stuff, you can get some lovely effects. And the noise isn't really nasty noise, it's actually, it's not bad at all. So that's not an issue between them. So other than the viewfinder, oh, this is one of my big bugbears, is this little button on top of here. Now, so this is the way to go, is have the button that you press to lock, press to unlock, and then that gives people choices. However, this doesn't have anything, but it's a lovely machined aluminium. It's, you know, it's positive but not difficult to change. You can move it one-handed, but it's not, or one with one finger, but it's not easy. You're never going to knock that. So to be honest, if I'd had the choice, I would prefer this one because the actual profile is a little bit lower than this, and I presume that they've done that to get the mechanism inside for the lock button. So overall, I'd prefer this one over this one. So if you put that on there, I'd be well chuffed. You lose one of the options on here, which is to go into the stop motion and time lapse button, but again, that's no major big deal. So these are good little tweaks that they've done to this, but you're not going to miss them. You've still got the SD card slots in the same. People have said there was issues with these not closing properly. I don't know if it's because I got one of the last versions. They appear to be identical to me. Again, the button layout is all the same. I think you get a few more function buttons on the viewfinder on this one than you do on this one. You've still got your mic input, your headphone jack, all the same. You've both got pop-up flashes. You know, it's a really, I think Panasonic have got this right in that the GH2 was their, you know, a real good step forward from the GH1. The GH3 took it to a new level, and they didn't need to go to a new level with the GH4. They just needed to tweak it, and that's what they've done. And you know, I think hats off to them. I think they've done a wonderful job on both these cameras. So the biggest difference is the fact that this one is between £400 and £500 cheaper than this one. You can buy this new and get some cash back on it. You can get £100 cash back at the moment on the GH3, and it makes it cheaper than some second-hand ones I've seen on eBay. And the reason for that is because people are not selling these. There are a few second-hand ones appearing now where people have gone to the GH4, but it appears that what a lot of people do is they keep the GH3. I know lots of people that have got GH3s, GH2s, and even GH1s. and they're keeping them because they're still fantastic cameras. Just because they're a couple of generations old, you know, it doesn't mean that they're no good. So menu systems are pretty much the same. So if you can use a GH3, you can use a GH4. If I had a GH3, would I upgrade to the GH4? Only if I desperately wanted the bigger viewfinder, only if I desperately wanted the 4K, and only if I desperately wanted the slow motion in 1080. They're the only reasons to upgrade. If you don't need those, I think the GH3 is either worth sticking with or an absolute bargain to buy. I'm still glad I bought the GH4, but I would have been perfectly happy with the GH3. And even, see, if I had a choice of the GH4 with a cheaper lens, or a GH3 with, say, the 12 to 35 2.8 lens, I'd go for the GH3 every time, because the lens, you know, is one of the most important things. You need to get good glass on these cameras. I've got the Olympus 45-1.8 on there, and I've got the Panasonic 12 to 35 2.8 on there, both fantastic pieces of glass. So you've got to choose your glass. You don't have to spend a lot of money on glass. This is cheap as chips. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. You just got to buy the right glass. For this camera, the GH3, I'm going to get the 14 to 140 lens, because my half doesn't like changing lens and swapping around. So she's going to have the 14 to 140 on there, and very rarely will she ever probably never take that lens off, because that's equivalent roughly to the 18 to 200 she's used to on her Nikon. And then what I plan to do in the future for a really extended telephoto, I'm going to have a little look at the Panasonic Lumix 100 to 300, which is insane. That's a 200 to 600mm lens, and it's about this big. So I'm going to have a little look at that as well, because we both like shooting animals in zoos and things, so that would be great for a bit of wildlife photography. So there you go. I still, as I'm using these cameras, I can't speak of them highly enough. They're, in my opinion, the way forward, the future. Every time I go out with it, and you know, there's just no weight in it. That's the thing for me. It's just a lovely thing to handle, a lovely thing to carry around all day long, and you know, I think it works great. So, oh, the other thing I wanted to say, there's a function on here for scene modes as well as art modes, whereas on here they are in there, but you have to go in through the menu or set up a function button to get into them. But not something I use a lot. To be honest, the only two I really use is the monochrome, the black and white. Sometimes I like to shoot in black and white, and what else? That's it really. That's probably the only one I'm ever going to swap to. So it's not something that, you know, is a major deal for me at all. So there you go, two absolutely fantastic cameras. Well chuffed with them, and I think a great investment for our photography. If you want to see photos taken with these cameras, as I take more and more pictures, I'll upload them to my Flickr page, and I suggest that's where you go to have a look at them, because you see the full res images. You can search for me on under GRVO TV, and you'll find me on Flickr, or you can search by cameras and see what other people have taken with these cameras, and you know, again, you can look at full res images. It's a great way to decide whether or not you want to buy a camera. So this has been GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. Watch this space for more reviews on lenses and Micro Four Thirds trickery. Cheers, bye.